Hey guys, in this video I want to demonstrate how to answer an IB economics question in paper 1, a typical 10 marks question on merit goods and externalities. This is considered one of the easiest ones you will find. So let's get into it. The question is asking, explain why the consumption of merit goods such as healthy food can lead to positive externalities of consumption. So first thing we gotta do before we answer any question is to write our outline at the side. So remember the structure of a 10 marks question. We define, draw the graph, explain, use the example along the way. So let's start. What are our definitions? So our command term is explain. Let's put a box around that. And key terms in the question are merit goods and positive externalities. Now, you need to remember that in some questions, the key terms are all in the question itself, such as in this type of externality question. In other questions, you may find that the key terms you will have to know. So if the question was just asking about merit goods, you automatically define externality. If the question is asking about market failure, you automatically define externality. But in this case, our definitions are merit goods and, let me write that down, and externalities. Okay, so what is the graph that we're going to draw? First we draw, then we write. So our graph is going to be a typical externalities graph. Remember that the definition of merit goods is that it's an externality of consumption. So we're going to have two demand curves, one supply curve, where the supply of the marginal social cost is equal to the marginal private cost. However, in the demand, since this is a positive externality, marginal social benefit is bigger than the marginal private benefit, making that the social optimum quantity to be bigger than what is actually consumed in the market. So this is the explanation of the graph. And the example we're going to be using in our explanation is given in the question. Even though you could use another example, but since it's already given in the question, it's a much better idea to choose the one given. And the most important thing is to be able to identify what is the externality itself of healthy food. So what's the external benefit? What's the benefit on the third party? In this case, it's either that less sick people will lead to less healthcare spending by the government. So that's the third party in this case, the government healthcare spending. Or the healthier people will mean more productive workforce, so they are people more productive labor, so they're better for the work and for their peers and for the customers in their workplace. Okay, so let's start by answering the question. So I'm going to start over here. Now, in a 10 marks question, you just go right ahead with the definition. Don't worry about writing an introduction or anything. The key thing in the definition is that it has to be the economic one. It's really shouldn't be the case that you write what you understand from the concept. You should know the economic definitions. So in this case, the economic definition of merit good is goods that have positive consumption externalities. And define positive externality, which is our, so we've defined what our merit goods. Now let's define our externality. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, sorry for that interruption. I guess you heard my daughter's voice in the background. So, we were saying, we start with the definitions. Go ahead, right ahead, saying the first definition, link it to the second definition. A positive externality is when the consumption or production of a good leads to a positive or leads to a benefit on a third party. Okay. Other than the consumer or producer. So go ahead into introducing your example. Healthy food is an example of a merit good because its consumption leads to healthier people in society and a lower rate of obesity and sickness, thus lower government spending on healthcare. And thus we identified what's the externality in it. So what do we do next? Well, if you're stuck, then you know what you need to do next. You draw the graph. Okay, so in this case, let's draw it right ahead. Big ones, you should draw it with a ruler in your exam, always. My advice to you, draw with a pencil, because I tend to do mistakes, so anyone tend to do mistakes in graphs, and you cannot just cross it over for one simple mistake. So it's much neater to draw with a pencil, and you're allowed to do that. So we draw the graph that we outlined. Marginal social benefit, marginal private benefit. Everything we're drawing, we're going to explain it. A, B, C, D. We explain the sequence of what we are drawing and what it means. Okay, so first let me identify the key points. Q star, which is the social quantity, socially desired quantity, and Q, which is the quantity in the market, consumed in the market by the private individuals. Okay. So, what's our next step? The ABCD of a graph. Let's label the graph. So let's label it here on the side. Figure 1 represents market for healthy and let's explain what we just drew. In figure 1, marginal social benefit, write the abbreviation, represents the benefit of society from the consumption of healthy food, while marginal private benefit, MPB, and you can hear my daughter's voice right now, represents the benefit of consumers, the benefit of the consumers of healthy food. Since healthy food has an external benefit to society, marginal social benefit is bigger, or you can just use the sign, is bigger than marginal private benefit. Okay, so yeah, this causes the social optimum quantity Q star to be higher than what is actually consumed in the market. And my daughter now wants to go for O, which means up the stairs. What is actually consumed in the market represented by Q. And this is our ending of the answer of the question. And you can add this sentence. The fact that the good is under consumed from the point of view of society. View, did you see that? View of society results in a welfare loss to society represented by the area of triangle ABC. And this is what I forgot to identify on the graph, so let me do this right now. Welfare loss points towards socially optimist, this triangle, so I can shade it like this to make it clear, but it's not necessary if you just identify the corners of the triangle as A, B, C. And if I move upwards like that, we will see that this is it. This represents the answers to the question to gain the 10 marks. To review, we have the definitions that we start with. We draw the graph using the example. I use the example on the graph. I use the example in explaining the externality. I identify what is the external effect specifically. And finally, when I draw a graph, I have to explain it. You can't just draw the graph and represent the and expect the examiner to know what everything means. You have to explain everything in sequence. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. In this case, externality leads to the social benefit to be bigger than the private benefit, leads to the socially optimum quantity to be bigger than what's actually consumed in the market, which leads to the market failure. And the underconsumption represents a welfare loss to society represented by the area. This is A, B, C, D. You can solve it in different ways, but this is my illustration of it. And I hope it guides you in your answering to question, IB economics question, as I know it's a very confusing topic. And if we look at the time, we've done this in 11 minutes, which is pretty good in a 10 marks question, as you should aim for 15 minutes. Thank you.